Welcome back. In this tutorial, we are going to implement MySQL database. Basically, previously we were using H2 Hibernate database, which is a in-memory database, but it is necessary to implement some specific and some real databases which can helpful in our real life projects. For example, MySQL database or a MongoDB or a PostgreSQL and something like that. Okay, so currently basically we are going to use a MySQL database. With it we have few of the dependencies here. As you can see there, we have a dependency of a JPA, it is fine, and we have a dependency of a H2 database, okay, which is an in-memory database. First of all, we have to remove that dependency. So because we do not need that database, we are going to implement the MySQL database for it. Okay, now we will go and open uh, okay, we will go and open first of all the Spring initializer. Okay, and basically if you want to find the dependency from online or Maven Central, it depends on you, but I always recommend finding the dependencies from Spring initializer. Okay, so you can search for MySQL. We have a MySQL driver here, so we can use that MySQL driver. Okay, and when we explore it, you just have to copy it from here. This is the MySQL dependency which we are going to use in it. And okay, I think it is enough for now. Okay, we will just use that MySQL driver. Okay, and we have to go to our POM file and paste the dependency here. Okay, so it will download the connector and each and everything inside of it. Okay, so now we have to do some few of the changes in our application.properties file. Okay, we do not need these configurations because these configurations are for the H2 database. Okay, we have to set up the URL, we have to set up the driver and each and everything in there. Let's that operation be completed. It takes a little time to do that. I think it is getting late. Okay, it is done. Now we can add some configurations here for the MySQL. First of all, we will set the configuration for our URL. Okay, first of all, spring dot sorry, spring dot data source dot URL. Okay, and in before we were using the H2, so that's why we use like JDBC H2 memory and something like that. But for MySQL, we have to do a little different thing. We have to do MySQL, oh sorry, JDBC MySQL column, and then we have to put the host here. Okay, the host name here, the port here, and then the database name here. We have to do like that. Okay, first of all, let's create a connection and let's create a database in the MySQL, then we will come back here. Okay, so this is the MySQL workbench. You have to install the MySQL server, community server, and a MySQL workbench. If you want to do on a console, you can do that. I am just going to open the local instance with our IP address as a local host and a port as 3306 and username is root. Okay, so the password is root2 here. We will first of all create a new database here, so with a name social media application. Okay, we will just copy it and apply. So you can see that we have a social media application here. We will make it a default schema. Okay, we have it here. Now we will come back again to our application.properties file. Here we will set our host, which is a local host, and our port 3306 and our database name, which is a social media application. Okay, you can change it anywhere you want, but according to you, basically it depends on your own choice. So now we are going to set the username spring.datasource.username. Okay, as you saw here, my username was a root in it, so I will use the same name as root. Okay, and now for spring.datasource.password is again root. I think it is a root, but if there is something else, we will check it out later. Now for the driver, in our previous database for the h2, we use the driver as org.h2 or something like that, but in our MySQL we use the JDBC MySQL driver. So for that you have to write spring.datasource.driver class name. Okay, so we are going to use com.mysql.jdbc driver. Okay, basically we can use that driver, but I recommend using a cj driver. It is more better to use a cj dot jdbc. Okay, see, this is the one, jdbc dot driver. Okay, so we have this MySQL driver. Now these are of the configuration for a MySQL. Now we are doing a little configurations for Hibernate, which have to implement all of these things. So first of all, we have to set spring.jpa .hibernate.ddl auto. We will make it update, so that if there, basically update means if there is anything which is changed according to the model and our database table, it will create a new tables according to that change. So that update will do that thing. Okay, now we are going to show our SQL. We will write spring.jpa dot show SQL, and it is true. Okay, now we have to set a dialect. Dialect is something which will convert the Hibernate queries into our MySQL queries. For example, we have some Hibernate thing, like we are going to store some you can say some user into the database. So we have to convert that user object into a MySQL query, so they can be executed on our MySQL server. So that's why we use dialect for that one, and you have to search for the dialect according to your version. If you are using MySQL 8 or some other, you can change your version accordingly. Okay, so I have to select spring.jpa.properties .hibernate.dialect, okay, is equal to org.hibernate.dialect.mysql 8 dialect. Okay, so basically we are going to set the properties of a dialect to a org.hibernate.dialect.mysql 8 dialect. Okay, if you are using MySQL 7 or 6 or something like that, you can change your dialect something like that. Okay, because these are all of the classes which are available. So I am using MySQL 8, so I have set it to a MySQL 8 dialect. Okay, now I have did all of the configuration and changes which are required, and everything is complete. Now we can test our MySQL database. We have few of the methods which are completed already, like get all users and to add a new user. Basically we are using our okay, I think we are using DAO service. We have to change it to a repository. I think I forget to change it. Okay, so we have two methods which are completed with our database: add user method and get all user. Okay, we are going to test it on a MySQL. We have the database here, and now we are going to execute our application. If it runs successfully, it means all of the configuration which we entered are correct and they are working. Okay, as you can see that everything is executed successfully. It means all of our configurations are correct and they are working now. Okay, you can see that we have a MySQL dialect. Okay, basically they are saying, okay, they are saying it is depreciated, so they are using my org.hibernate.dialect.mysql dialect instead. Okay, you can and even change it into your application.properties files, and everything is ready. It is automatically created the table. We will just quickly check if the table is created or not. We will refresh it. Okay, so you can see we have a user table already here, and all of the details are here, like this is a primary key and it should be not null, and all of the other stuff with the auto increment, each and everything is completed here. Okay, so this is automatically created by our social media stuff. Okay, now before testing it completely, let's quickly complete all of our methods according to our repository. We will just remove the DAO service here, so that there is no need for a DAO service, and everything will be connected to the database. Okay, so that get all user method is already connected to our database. We do not have to do any change in it, and that get user method is need to be changed because it is using a DAO service. Okay, so we are basically extracting the user using that ID, so we will use repository dot find by ID. We have to pass the ID here, ID in it. Okay, so and it should be a optional user optional. Okay, so we, instead of a null, we can just check that if, okay, we have to import it. Okay, if user optional dot is empty, or you can say that does not present, oh sorry, is present, means it does not present in it, we will return the not found response. But if it present in it, we will create a user being v1 user is equal to user optional dot get. Okay, so we have converted that method from a DAO service to our database. Now we will do the changes to the other. This is the post method. It is already using the repository, means it is using my SQL database, or this is the delete function. Okay, we have to change that delete function so that instead of the DAO service, it should use the repository. Okay, delete by ID, and we will pass the ID num here. Okay, so basically it is not returning anything, so we will make it like that. And instead of that, basically if you want to check if the user exists or not, you can just do it by, we will just copy it. Okay, and we will just make it sure that it is exist in our database or not. Find by ID num dot is present. Okay, if means if it does not present in our database, we will return the not found result. But if it is present in the database, basically I think it is better if we just create the optional here, user being v1 user opt is this, and user opt dot is present, we will do that. And when user being v1 deleted user is user opt dot get, and now we will delete that user from the database and we return that user back. Okay, so now our delete method is also complete. Now each and every method in our controller is using the repository, means my SQL database at the back end. Okay, so we can check that everything is okay here and everything is working. Okay, now we will just go back and execute all of these statements on our Postman and check it out. Okay, if the statement is executed successfully, okay, there is no data in the database, it returns empty, it means it is working fine. Now we have to send a post request at the URL add user, and with a header and a body. Okay, we have that one ready. We will just send it. Okay, and you can see that that user is added into our database. Okay, now we will use the get method and we will see get all users and call that, and you can see the result. We have our Lily Jackson with all of the details and all of the links inside that. Okay, now we will quickly go back to our database and check if the data is inserted here. Okay, you can see that ID1, age, email, and each and everything is inserted into our database. If we quickly test it again with some other details, okay, let's say we are going to send a get add user, and we are going to update the details here. We do not put we do not need to put the ID. If we put it is fine. Let's say it is Rehan Javed, rehan@mail.com. Let's say address is Australia and age is 28. Okay, we will send a request at that address. Okay, it is added, and now we will quickly go back to our database and verify, okay, the data is inserted successfully into it. Okay, now we have tested each and everything. We have to test the other method to get a specific user. Okay, so basically what is the URL for that? We have embedded URL get user slash user ID. Okay, basically we will quickly test it here. Get user slash one. Okay, so we have the details for that Lily Jackson here, and with the two we have details of the Rehan Javed here. Okay, so all of these are working correctly. Now quickly test the delete method here. Let's say I want to delete, and what is the URL of the delete? Okay, URL is delete user slash user ID. Okay, so let's quickly come back here. Basically okay, we will just say delete user 2. Okay, and we send a request, and then you can see that user is deleted successfully. So it is okay, and we have returned with these details, which means the user is deleted successfully. Okay, now we will get and then send a request at get all users. Okay, and you can see that we only have a Lily Jackson, and Rehan Javed is deleted from that thing. Okay, and we will quickly verify it on our database. Rehan Javed is deleted, we only have that thing ready. Okay, so this is how with a little changes we are able to implement that complete project using our MySQL databases. And I hope you love this course, and we will try to create few of the other new courses for you too.